What is up, IDP Army? What is up, fantasy football, dynasty football fanatics? Got a great show for you today here on the channel. My name is Jordan Rains. Make sure you smash the subscribe. Make sure you push the like button. We have a good one. We're going to be talking IDP rookie fantasy football players. So we're going to be breaking down the top 10-ish dynasty rookies for IDP fantasy football. Like I said, while you're down there hitting the subscribe button, go check out the podcast feeds. Both of those are there. There's just a lot of good links, down in the description of the show or in the show notes if you're listening to the podcast. We appreciate that. Like I said, we are going to be talking about the top IDP rookies for your rookie drafts. Thanks for being patient, y'all. It's been a few days since the draft, finished up. So I really wanted to take my time and look things over, kind of really dig into some of my rookie drafts before I just started throwing content out there, started throwing takes out there. I really, now that we are, these are NFL players for IDP fantasy football and dynasty fantasy football, I need to, really sort of parse the situation, the player, the draft capital, the conversation, and see what we're working with here for this next year. So we're going to go ahead and jump into that. If you want to go ahead and get an IDP Army shirt or a possum shirt, check out the merch down below this video on YouTube. You can go check that out. And if you want to check out our rankings, the Ultimate IDP Index is on Patreon, patreon.com/the IDP Army. We also have Dynasty rankings. We also have, that's where all of our rookie stuff is. And we have best ball rankings. We love best ball. Been playing best ball for a while. So let's go ahead and jump into these IDP rookies. And before we do that, though, I want to caveat the whole rookie conversation for IDP. So if you're playing IDP fantasy football in a dynasty league, what does that mean? How are you going to be attacking the rookies? Like any sort of fantasy football, first and foremost, your scoring in your league setup is going to be pertinent. I'm going to trust that you are at least aware of that and have already sort of made adjustments in your mind. If you haven't, hop in our Discord. There should be a link in the description here. We'll help walk you through how you might need to adjust if your league is a little bit, if you're just unsure of what to do. We'd love to help you, walk you through that. So hop in that. But the next thing I would say is, rankings they're fluid. Every team, every person's rankings are going to be different, a little unique based on their perspective, their projections, their confidence level in a player. Is assuming that we all kind of have a similar process. A lot of people will feel good about a lot of the same players, bad about a lot of the same players. That makes a lot of sense. So bear in mind on that. And then the last part about rankings, I would say, is if you're ranking rookies, you have to bear in mind these are only the top end guys I'm going to go over in this video. Okay, only the top end rookie IDP players, 10, maybe a dozen. And these are the guys that I think might actually be contributors to your team this season. You really, when it comes to rookies in dynasty, you shouldn't rely on them for production because ultimately we don't know if they're going to hit or be a bust. And draft capital doesn't mean that they're going to play. It means that they're, the team thinks they can be somebody. But if there are good players around them, doesn't just mean that because they were taken high in the draft, they're going to play. Look at Jordan Davis last season for the Eagles, just as an example recently. So all that being said, let's go ahead and start with the Dynasty IDP rookies for 2023. No shock, the number one guy is going to be Will Anderson. I think he represents a long time horizon here. Obviously, a rookie player. Have had a lot of people come on the channel and sing his praises. A powerful athlete coming out of a really good program and maybe one of the better defensive line players that program has put out. So all of those things being said, now he lands with Houston, a team where there really isn't any defensive line depth in front of him. Nobody really chomping at the bit behind him. Snaps should be there in abundance. The leadership position on that defense should be available to him if he wants to go seize it. So he's going to be put in a good situation this year to produce. Now, I think back end defensive line 2 numbers would be good for him. If we get 8 sacks, 45 tackles, 8 to 10 tackles for loss, a handful of pass deflections, 15 quarterback hits, 20 quarterback hits. That'd be awesome. That would be a great season for Will Anderson. And I think that's totally within his range of outcomes without going too crazy on the high end of a projection side there. So I like Will Anderson this year as a guy you could play this season. I'm not relying on him as a defensive line one player yet, but I think for your team in Dynasty down the road, he represents that. And I think you could plug him in potentially week 1, week 2 safely and kind of start seeing what they do with him, seeing what he's going to do with that opportunity. Because again, we're going to kind of assume that he's going to get an opportunity, and he's going to deserve it and earn it. So we'll see what he does with it. Let's go to our number 2 IDP player, rookie IDP player. That's my man, Jack Campbell. His situation is a little different. Obviously, he's a linebacker. So we're going to probably get quite a bit more rookie production points-wise out of him, overall just defensive plays. Because he was the first linebacker taken, first-round pick, highly drafted. That indicates that they're going to use him. And there's really nobody stopping him from getting on the field. Malcolm Rodrigo, love him to death. Malcolm Rodriguez, he's probably going to be the linebacker too there. Anzalone is still there, I believe, and he had an okay season. But Jack Campbell, this is basically his job to lose his bag to fumble, so to speak. And I don't think that he's necessarily going to do that. So actually, I want to go back to Will Anderson real quick because I want to say in your rookie drafts, what are you going to value him as? I wouldn't look to draft Will Anderson in my rookie drafts, even as my top IDP player, till mid-second round, honestly. Super flex or one quarterback, whatever that may be, adjust accordingly. But I wouldn't start looking for Will Anderson until mid-second, late second. But back to Jack Campbell, given the fact that there's not a lot going on around him, I could easily see him playing 700, 800, 900 snaps pretty easily, maybe even more. And, just based on that alone, he'll probably be the most productive IDP rookie this season. So, I don't know what his true upside would be necessarily as a player. We'll have to see how he does in the NFL. But we know he's going to get every opportunity to succeed. The defense is young. The team is young. They're hungry. They have something to prove. I think my man Jack Campbell here is going to fit in nicely with the Detroit Lions. So let me know what you think about Jack Campbell if you're a Lions fan. And again, I think a healthy projection for him would be maybe a linebacker 18 to 20 might be a good projection for him, assuming everything kind of falls his way, without any major pitfalls in front of him. IDP number 3. This is my man, Daiyan. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce his name. You guys know I struggle with that. Henley. This is a linebacker. He was taken in the 3rd round. He, taken in the 3rd round by the Chargers, and he really fills a need for the Chargers. They drafted Kenneth Murray 3-4 seasons ago out of OU. Just hasn't panned out. Has not been the linebacker that they wanted him to be, and then many thought he could be in the NFL. This offseason, Drew Tranquill got picked up by the Chargers, so he departs. He was essentially their linebacker 1 last season for the Chargers. They brought in Eric Kendricks this offseason, a really good linebacker from the Minnesota Vikings. I think he signed a 2-year deal. He's only 30, so he'll be getting plenty of playing time. But the only player that's in the way of Daiyan Henley here, who is wearing number 0, which I know is a drippy number for ID or defense or anybody. So shout out to him. The only thing in the way of him playing essentially linebacker 1-esque type snaps is Kenneth Murray. And that's not much to get out of your way, apparently. So wheels are up for Henley. Kind of was a surprise that he dropped quite as far as he did. He was a 3rd-round pick, but nobody was really thirsty for linebackers. And in a kind of a weak linebacker class overall, the top guy disappearing. The second tier, a lot of NFL teams kind of felt like they could kind of maneuver in that area safely. So number 3, IDP rookie for me this season is Henley. A reasonable projection. If you go look at what Drew Tranquill did last season, that would be an awesome projection for my man Henley here, but I don't think he'll pull that off. But I think, 120 plus tackles, maybe some high quality impact plays would be nice. I don't know if it's talked about much other places, but I'm very unsure of what Brandon Staley offers as an NFL coach and as a leader of men and as a talent scout. So we'll see how that plays out for him. Henley overall, though, I think he's going to be a part of the Chargers probably long after Brandon Staley's a part of the Chargers. Let's just put it that way. Mainstay on this defense. So I like him a lot. And, again, I was going to actually say with Jack Campbell, where would you be drafting him? Kind of similar to Will Anderson, middle or the back of the second round, probably, of your rookie drafts. I actually just got Jack Campbell in the third round of a rookie draft because people just, people reach for players they don't really, in my opinion, some people, are taking players that they shouldn't take early. So that allows you, a savvy IDP manager, to, find some of this falling value. One of my drafts, Henley didn't even get drafted. I missed overnight. I guess I pinged out on the clock or something. I drafted the tight end for the Steelers, and the next morning some guy got Henley off waiver wires for like $8. So good on him. So he got my number 3 overall IDP coming in as a rookie off the waiver wire. So stay sharp out there, sharper than me. I fell asleep, like I said. Moving on, we got Drew Sanders coming in, Arkansas State University linebacker, drafted by the Broncos. Really fills a need for the Broncos. They've had a revolving door at linebacker, middle linebacker, the last 3, 4, 5 seasons, it feels like. AJ Johnson, Alex Singleton, Josie Jewell's been hanging around. There's a few other names. There was Davis, not Thomas Davis. It was a different Davis. Forget. Anyway, he was there. Just, been kind of a circular situation. So there's not a lot in front of Drew Sanders here to get on the field. Assuming he doesn't muck it up, he could essentially be their starter, be their primary inside off-ball linebacker. At a reasonable projection, we've seen Alex Singleton be extremely productive there. He's productive everywhere he goes, but the snaps are available to the off-ball linebacker that has the main job in Denver. So this might be one of your guys that you could get a little bit later, maybe if the other 2 players aren't draft falling. The other 2 linebackers, Drew Sanders, got to keep an eye on. And I would be looking for Drew Sanders, if you needed a linebacker, third round would definitely be a reasonable spot, back of the second, just depending on how many picks you've had, what your team situation is and all that. So like some Drew Sanders. And like I said, this isn't going to be a super deep dive. So I think I'm only going to go about 10 players, a dozen players deep. So there is my 4th IDP player for the IDP rookies, my man Drew Sanders for the Denver Broncos. Next, we got another off-ball linebacker, Trenton Simpson. This is one of the reasons that I waited to put my rankings out, because I wanted to see what happened with Patrick Queen. Ravens did not pick up his 5th-year option, so that means there's an opening for somebody to hold this job or have this job for a while. And so that's where Trenton Simpson comes in. Drafted, I think it was a 3rd-round draft pick. Reasonable capital. The only hesitancy I have is we have seen the Ravens limit the play time of rookies. So I don't think that I think his high-end range of outcomes and his low-end range of outcomes are pretty close to each other. Maybe that's how I feel about Simpson this year. Probably be able to get him 3rd, 4th round of your rookie picks. If you're a Ravens fan and you want to reach, I'm okay with that. I'm not against it because there's really not much going on incumbently around him. Again, the signals are that Patrick Queen is on the way out of town. So yeah, if you played for Clemson, off-ball linebacker, good value. Again, the second tier of linebackers this year, in that 3rd round, it seemed like there was quite a group of guys that a lot of these teams that needed linebacker, or thought they were going to need linebacker soon. They did choose to attack that position. So Trenton Simpson comes in for me at number 5, another off-ball linebacker. And I don't really know to give him a real projection for this season. Like I said, high end, low end, or I feel like are going to be similar. I feel like you'll get some good weeks out of him, potentially, especially if we have injuries pop up. He's going to be an easy plug and play linebacker probably, just because there's no depth, no quality depth going on for the Ravens. So, on that kind of merit alone, he could be something really special for you. But, again, I think we're just going to see Patrick Queen get phased out or disappear eventually. So, and it's easy to forget. He's had games where they just pulled him off the field. So hate to see it, but love to see it for Trenton Simpson. Like I said, coming in here as my what I say he was my number 5 IDP player. And again, these are guys that I think that you could probably play certain weeks of their rookie season, and they're going to have some value. But I'm not saying these are guys that you're going to be able to plug and play right out the gates and necessarily, get linebacker 2 numbers from. We got to see how these teams want to use them and how they start evaluating them once they're in camp and all that, really have them under their thumb. So be interesting, but he has a pretty easy track to get on the field. Next, we got Brian Branch. Shout out to Hurricane in the comments. He said Brian Branch greater than. Brian Branch, another first round pick for the Lions. Wasn't a first round pick. He's a second round pick for the Lions. Defensive back, safety / could play some cornerback. He joins Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Tracy Walker, 2 very good safeties. But I think that he's going to be fine as a rookie. I think he's going to get playing time. Best safety or best defensive, the best safety on the board this year. People were comping him to Kyle Hamilton. I remember last year, a long time ago, but people were mocking Kyle Hamilton to the Lions at pick 5, like early April last year. So they got the best safety in this class. And I think you could plug and play this guy as a probably more so. You could probably play him more confidently and safely than any of the other players that I've mentioned so far, except for maybe Jack Campbell, but they're right there. Only reason he's a little bit lower is because defensive back points are maybe a little bit easier to manufacture, not like necessarily off the bench, but you can find there are lots of defensive backs starting every week who are going to get playing time. And if you put a little elbow grease into it, not even a lot, just a little, you'll be able to find something. But I don't like doing that. I like having set and forget ballers on my team. And if that's what you're looking for, Brian Branch is going to be that guy for you at the safety position this year. Just because he fell into the second round, don't let that get you too worried. Javon Holland was a second round safety. Jeremy Chin, I think he was almost a third round safety. I think he was picked at the last pick of the second round. Plenty of great safeties have been picked in the second round of the NFL draft. And he got a nice setup going forward. Yeah, Hurricane also says Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is gone after this season, so runway clear for takeoff. So he doesn't have a lot in front of him now. I think they're going to find a way to get him on the field regardless, and he could easily beat one of these guys. If he is that good, we'll have to see. But either way, CJ, GJ, going to be gone next season, so it should be wheels up. So he's coming in as my number 6 overall IDP, and I would be happy taking him. Probably back of the third. Again, I don't want to reach for a defensive back. But you'll see guys, you'll see a lot of strange things in IDP rookie drafts. So moving on, this one's a little bit harder name to say, but this is my man Felix Anudike-Uzomah. I don't know if I said his middle part of that name right, but this is defensive line player picked up by the Chiefs end of the first round. One of the main reasons that he is kind of this high is because Carlos Dunlap and Frank Clark both out of town now. Got their rings. We sent them packing, a little old, and we've been taking care of the defensive line, kind of slowly rebuilding it. We added Charles Omenihu to the Chiefs defensive line. They drafted George Karlaftis last year, who sneakily played quite a few snaps. I think people kind of sleep on how much of an impact he made on our defense last year. Into the first round pick for him, and now we add Felix here. He doesn't have much in his way, to get on the field. Like I said, Dunlap's gone. Frank Clark is gone. We like to play our young edge rushers, and we've been building up this defense for a while. I wonder how much people have been paying attention. Willie Gay. We added, Nick Bolton, Carl Loftus, Trent McDuffie. L'Jarius Sneed didn't come out of nowhere. Like these players, we've been building this. So this is one more piece in a well thought out, strategically put together defense that has been getting better. I think people have given it too much credit at times, but it's getting better. I really like what I see, from an opportunity standpoint for this guy. So that's kind of why he kind of comes in here a little higher than maybe some of the players behind him. It has nothing to do with talent. I kind of assume talent is already baked into your draft capital. I trust the people getting eyes on these guys. for me, it's about kind of hopefully assessing potential opportunities, so to be on the Chiefs, a high powered offense, to not have many people in front of you, you're going to have chances to get on the field and put some points up for your IDP fantasy managers as a rookie, probably. So let's move on to IDP 8. That is Will McDonald from USC, drafted by the Jets. The main thing for him is, again, there's no one in front of him. Carl Lawson, I think people are finally, people don't talk about him anymore. I don't know if people have said out loud what that means, but Carl Lawson's kind of out of the conversation. We've seen, they kind of had some random pass rushers, guys that haven't really worked out, but they brought in a player that they want to put on the field. Again, there's not much around him. Now, again, these guys are I think you'll get some production out of him this season as a rookie, but I wouldn't count on him as much more than a 3-2 DL, maybe a flex. But because of the fact that they're thirsty for defensive line players, they have been addressing the other positions. They went out and got Chuck Clark. They did re-sign Quincy Williams. Quinnen Williams is, he's a meme king. Hopefully you follow him on Twitter. He's a great follow. But he's on the interior of that line, and he brings pressure. He doesn't just attract attention. He's doing his own work. So all that does is spell potential upside for Will McDonald. Like I said, it's kind of a weaker linebacker class, so I kind of went more defensive line players for Dynasty, just because getting these players on your team, letting them develop, maybe you'll be in a situation like some people are now where Montez Sweat has really come around. Max Crosby has come around. Brian Burns has come around. Rashawn Gary has come around. A lot of those guys came out in the same class, and they've had ups and downs in their narratives, but if you stuck with it, any of those guys, you're feeling pretty good. So Will McDonald coming in here at my IDP 8. Again, y'all, appreciate you being here with us. Be sure to follow both the podcast feeds, all the links down there in the description. Follow the show, follow the channel, subscribe to the channel, and give us a thumbs up. That'd be awesome for the video. And then share this video on your, share it in your league chat. We'd appreciate that. We're trying to grow this thing. IDP fantasy football is getting bigger and bigger, especially the way that fantasy games are evolving. It's not just redraft. It's not just Dynasty. It's not just best ball. It's not even just pick'ems or head-to-heads. It's just, there's so many different things you can do. I think people are kind of wising up to variety, the mix and the match of it all. So let's go ahead and move on to our last couple of IDP rookies. IDP rookie number 9, I got Myles Murphy coming in. He is an edge rusher. He got drafted by the Bengals. Why do I like Myles Murphy? Well, again, this is a guy that it's a dynasty, so it's going to be a developmental thing. But Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson have both been there for a while. Sam Hubbard's been there for a long time. Cincinnati Bengals. He's been a mainstay of that defense for a long time. Hendrickson got paid. His contract, it's not going to last forever. So they're gearing up for that position to have the next man up. It's easy to forget. Those guys kind of replaced Carlos Dunlap, who just won a Super Bowl ring with the Chiefs. So just because players move on or are getting older doesn't mean they're going to disappear forever. But that doesn't mean they're going to be the pass rushers for the Bengals forever. So Myles Murphy doesn't have a lot in the way. I've heard and read, saw a lot of really good things about him. He's one of the names that I actually heard kind of come up in the draft process. Y'all know I don't watch college football, so I didn't really know who he was over much, but I heard his name. So he permeated past the basic college football level of excitement. So that's good to hear. So he's a player that I like. And again, for IDP Dynasty, I'm leaning into the defensive line players in this class because, we saw the NFL reflect the Henley has already been on here. Somebody in the chat's asking a question. The defensive line players are reflecting the long-term value, and the NFL draft reflected that was a position that the, draft evaluators saw as valuable. Linebackers, there was quite a few, but a lot of them I said kind of went later. So we're going to actually get to our last player here. This is a linebacker, and that is DeMarvion Overshown, drafted by the Cowboys. They have Leighton Vander Esch. They have Micah Parsons. When they drafted Micah Parsons, they drafted him to be an off-ball linebacker. Now, he has turned into something else entirely, and that's awesome. And I think that part of how, and we've seen them embrace that let him play off the edge. And Leighton Vander Esch, while he has been pretty strong, has been fragile in the past. And Jalen Smith is gone. So Overshown getting drafted here, there's a potential immediate opportunity for him. Kind of fell in the draft, I think, from what I remember. If I remember Billy saying something right, I feel like he was a little bit higher in our pre-draft rookie rankings. But coming in at 10 here as another linebacker, and I'll name off a couple other linebackers I think could have some rookie production, but this is ones that I feel like potentially have the most confidence in. So Overshown gets to play next to Leighton Vander Esch. We know Micah Parsons isn't really going to impede on that other true linebacking position. So we could, plays at Texas, Texas guy. So big vibes guy down there with them Cowboys. So that is my number 10 IDP. So I want to read them all back off again. Let me pull them back up. Like I said, any questions, comments, y'all, would love to see you in the Discord. Hit us up there. This is by no means, if you come in the comments complaining it's not a deep list, I need a deep IDP list. I need your top 150 IDP dynasty rookies. You ain't gonna get that from me, friend. I'm here to win dynasty fantasy football leagues, not like conversations about it and like show off my big brain. So, these are the players that I'm actually potentially maybe going to draft. And I've gone through actually like 3 rookie drafts already. And in those rookie drafts, the only IDP I've taken so far is Jack Campbell. So, I'm not overly blown away by this class. I'm not going out of my way to tripping over myself to put these players on my team. I don't think anybody ever should do that for rookies just as a fundamental rule. But I'm more than happy to have, Jack Campbell on my team. And we'll help you. We'll walk you through your drafts, and we would love to help you figure out who is the best available player for your team. But reading them back again, just one more time for the folks that are on the podcast and the folks that joined the live stream late. These are our top 10 IDP dynasty rookies for 2023 fantasy football. And again, rankings reflect projections, confidence level, and, just the potential kind of upside that they could bring long-term and immediate future. So we have Will Anderson as our number 1 IDP player this year as a rookie. Number 2, we got Jack Campbell taken by the Detroit Lions. Number 3, we got Daiyan Henley wearing number 0 for the Bolts, the Chargers out in LA. Should be set up really nicely there. Spent a little time talking about him earlier. Drew Sanders, another rookie, set up really nicely to potentially make a splash. Don't really know about the true upside he has, but he's been put in a position to get on the field early and often. Coming in at number 5, Trenton Simpson. This is kind of a late board riser just after he was drafted, and then Monday we saw Baltimore not pick up the 5th-year option of Patrick Queen, kind of indicating that he could have an easy road to some snaps. Then we have our first defensive back, Brian Branch, at number 6, IDP 6, rookie IDP 6. IDP 7, we have Felix Uzomah. That's how I'm going to say his name the rest of forever, probably, y'all. Number 8, we have Will McDonald for the Jets, rookie defensive line player. Myles Murphy, picked up by the Bengals, defensive line player. And then we had DeMarvion Overshown, picked up by the Dallas Cowboys. He was a late day 3 or late round 3 pick. So there are a couple other IDP linebacker rookies that you may or may not hear people speaking about. So I'll just briefly touch on a couple of them. One of them being Dorian Williams, I believe is his name. Went to the Bills. Bills have a couple of linebackers. Both of our last names, I think, are Bernard. It's like Terrell and something else. I forget. Their names are very familiar, similar. I don't know who that second linebacker is going to be. It could be Williams. Could be one of the guys that's already there. So that's why I couldn't push him up my board quite so much yet. But he's a linebacker to, keep an eye on. He may end up on your waiver wires. You may have seen somebody draft him and say, who's that? Maybe you were ahead of him. Maybe you're higher on him than I am. Maybe you think he's going to be awesome as a rookie. Let me know. I'm interested. But his name did come up when I was looking into my top 10 there for a little bit. Another name did, Noah Sewell, came up as a player to keep an eye on. I was keeping an eye on. And there's a couple of defensive backs that were cornerbacks. Witherspoon, I think, even though he's a cornerback, I think he has a chance to be an IDP contributor, as a rookie, based on draft capital and based on the type of player that I've heard that he is. And then Joey Portis Jr., drafted by the Steelers, was reading some things about him. Terrell Edmonds is now with the Eagles, and I was reading some things kind of saying he's versatile and that they may put him at safety some this year. So there might be a little sneaky upside there if you're in a cornerback specific league, or even if you're not and you just want to draft a cornerback, which is totally fine. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't play a cornerback every single week. You don't have to stream them. If you just get a good one, get a good one. So Portis, and good one being what kind of position is he going to be put in? Obviously, the slot is the best place to get some easy tackles, but slots and the safety, and then your outside guys generally. But again, you can't just eliminate outside corners from the equation, and you can't just eliminate slot corners from the safety situation. You have to play the players that are out there. You know what I'm saying? You have to put these players on your roster, get them on your waiver wire, put them out there, have them make a difference. So that is basically it for me today. That is our top 10 IDP rookies. Thank you for joining us on the channel. We do have best ball content. We have Dynasty content. And of course, we have IDP fantasy football content. Join the Patreon if you want to get access to our rankings. Join our Discord. We would love to talk to you, and just we appreciate all the support. Every little bit counts. It matters. We appreciate it. And we're trying to build something cool and something special, like your Dynasty team. We want you to win. So like I said, come through the Discord. We would love to help you crush your rookie drafts. And hopefully we see you again soon. Thanks for coming.